Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, everyone. First of all, it's a real pleasure to welcome you all to the Future of English Assessment in KSA event. So on behalf of Cambridge University Press and Assessment and our partners, Mahd al-Ibtikar, it gives me great pleasure to welcome everybody. So thank you for joining us today. First of all, it's wonderful to see so many school leaders, educators, and leaders sharing the same vision in the room with us today. And this vision is supporting learners to achieve more and building the future of English education for the world ahead. So education in Saudi Arabia is moving faster than ever before, and I think we all know that. With Vision 2030, there's a clear focus not just on education, but on skills, communication, and global readiness. And assessment plays a key part in that. So today we'll explore how assessment is changing education and measuring learning and supporting learning. Let me tell you a little bit about who we are first. Our journey began nearly 500 years ago when King Henry VIII granted a royal charter for us to publish books. And that makes us the oldest publishing house in the world. And in 1858, Cambridge held its very first exam for schools. And that's over 160 years of expertise in assessment. Since then, we've grown to become the world's most trusted and respected name in education, assessment, and publishing. So two separate bodies, but in 2021, we came together to become Cambridge University Press and Assessment. And by doing this, we combined world-class learning with world-class assessment. And that means in the classroom, we can offer everything from learning materials to supporting learners and to verifying the results. So what does this mean? At the heart of this legacy, one of our key assessment resources are our Cambridge English qualifications. These famous exams that are designed to help learners develop and learn English step by step. And you'll see that today. So it's about the journey, not just about the destination. And learners get to build the skills they need for real-life communication, not just to pass the test. From pre-A1, so from the very beginning, all the way up to C2. So how do we do this? Well, across the world, and specifically here in Saudi Arabia, Cambridge exams are trusted by schools, parents, universities, educational bodies, ministries, etc. They're reliable, they're fair, and they have the real ability to measure what matters, real communication skills. And obviously, we like to think of this as a journey, not just a test. So learners start from the very first words and phrases and move up the learning journey step by step until they can operate comfortably in an academic setting. And the clear progression keeps our learners motivated, and as our research shows, it helps teachers track this development in a meaningful way. But of course, because we're part of the University of Cambridge, everything we do has to be backed by research. And you'll hear a lot about that from Dr. Hisham today. So we constantly analyze how our learners think, speak, and write so that our tests reflect authentic English use and proficiency. And that's why, as you can see, over 90% of teachers say that the Cambridge exams make their learners more motivated to learn English. But it's not just the teachers who share this vision. Parents do as well. And these are some testimonials from parents of students who have taken exams throughout the world. And I really like the last one from one parent in Saudi Arabia who says, "My child felt free to talk comfortably with the examiner without any stress, because that's how exams should be, not stressful. When we give our learners certificates, we don't just celebrate the achievements, we also give personalized feedback on their progress, giving parents, teachers, and schools the information and data they need to support the learner's journey. So, what does that mean for our students? Well, our students today are what is known as digital natives. And that means we have adapted from 1858 to have digital exams now. And there are a lot of benefits of digital exams. They can be scheduled anytime throughout the year. Results are back within a week usually. And learning, as you'll see in a minute, is fun and engaging and reliable. So our exams, as you'll see today from Mr. Bader, from Dr. Hisham, Dr. Sabina, and Mr. Peter, are designed for our digital generation. They're exciting, they experience learning and play, and they have control over the whole experience. And every task they complete, we give them a motivational reward to keep them going. So let's take a quick look at what this means for our learners.
We are bringing digital adventure to young learner exams. Discover a world of English with Cambridge English Qualifications Digital for young learners. Millions of young learners have used our tests to improve their everyday English skills, step by step. Pre-A1 Starters Digital and A1 Movers Digital help young learners build a solid foundation for their English development. They provide a natural way for this generation of learners to demonstrate their progress in all 4 skills: listening, reading and writing, and speaking. Children create their own avatars to explore fantasy islands, a turtle island under the sea, and a dinosaur island. They work their way along the map by completing tasks. They earn rewards after every task, keeping them motivated from start to finish. Looking cool! The test's user-friendly nature puts young learners in control of their experience so they can answer questions to the best of their ability. Everyone receives a certificate and feedback on how to improve, helping them look forward to the next step on their English language learning journey. We're here to help you prepare your learners so you can feel confident they're ready to show their skills. Kickstart your learners' English adventure.
When my son saw that video, he asked me that if he could take the test. He's not yet 5, but I said to him he can take it next year. So that's a quick look at the Cambridge journey, how we've come from tradition to transformation to digital. And so today you'll see how these ideas can be applied practically in Saudi Arabia and how our partners, Nahda, are bringing innovation to the classroom through their exam center across the country. So let me tell you a little bit about today's schedule, as you can see on the table in front of you. After me will be Mr. Bader, who will begin with From Challenge to Change, how exams shape learners. And he'll share their practical experience, how they turned exams from a source of pressure and stress to a positive and fun learning journey that builds motivation and learner confidence as well. And then I'm happy that our colleague, Dr. Hisham, will take us into the future with AI and the future of assessment, exploring how artificial intelligence is transforming the way that we measure learning. After that, we'll be joined by Dr. Sabina, who will present DYL to Cambridge Success, Growing Schools, growing teachers. And she'll show how digital exams are helping schools innovate and teachers grow. And obviously, last but not least, Peter will close the day with his session on integrated learning and assessment, showing how this approach boosts students' outcomes and gives them the right learning resources and meaningful assessment tools. So, thank you again for joining us, and we're very happy to have you with us. And please join me in welcoming Mr. Bdir for the next session.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Nice to meet you. So that's me. Okay. Bismillah. Now it's good. Yeah. So it's me, Bdir Abdulghani, the manager of Cambridge exams of Nهدف. So you're welcome again. Is the sound okay? Sorry. This one is okay? Really? Sure? Yeah. So I need your comments about these 3 photos. Just, who can tell me? One of these photos. This is the first one, second one, and third one. Good. Again? Good. What else? Exam to graduation. Good. So the first one, as you see, this student is what? Stressed. He's under pressure, yeah? Yes. So he's suffering, as all students when they have exams. But with Cambridge, no. I promise you. And the second one? Yeah. Happy. And the third one? Yeah, pride. Thank you. Okay, and these are the exams. I think Zaidi have talked about them. So we call it a ladder. So a student step like this, starters, movers, flyers, and so on, until he reaches the highest limit, okay, of proficiency. During the last 2 years, our students in different schools in Jeddah, Riyadh, Abha, Khamis Mashayd, different cities, did these exams. They started from starters, and now last year they did key for schools. This year they are going to do PIT, and until they reach, okay, C1 and C2. So great changes are born from great challenges. Yeah. So this sprite, as I told you, from different places. Now, I need your participation about the challenges. Guess, what challenges did we face when we did Cambridge exams? Just I need to listen. I need your participation. Guess. What challenges? How to speak. This one. Another one? Perfect. What else? Writing is difficult. Yeah. What else? Perfect. Yeah, variation. Yes. Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to show you, sorry, okay, some of these challenges. The first point is when you tell a student, we have an exam, what does he do? Like this, yeah? He's afraid, even if he's a good student. Okay? So all students are afraid when they face or they have exams. So this is the first challenge. The second one is related to us, teachers. Teachers, they didn't know a lot about Cambridge, one teacher told me or asked me, what if my students didn't pass? It's not about passing, or it's not about failure. It's something related to measuring progress. And the third point, the question didn't stop at school. It went to home. Yeah. Parents asked, it's an international measurement. So how can my child, how can he succeed? How can he get this certificate? And at that time, I'm talking about 2 years ago, most of us, we didn't know about the criteria or measurements or standards of Cambridge. Then Vision 2030. Cambridge exams align with this vision, okay? Because you know that now in Saudi Arabia, they want all students have international qualifications. So this wasn't about testing for testing's sake. It was about opening doors, building confidence. The first one, or the first step, believing in our students. As a teacher, first I need to believe in my students. If I believe in them, they will believe in themselves. Okay, so this is the first step. As you see these photos from different schools, okay, so we watched something remarkable. Confidence, okay, the students started being confident of themselves. And now this is the pride. I need some comments about this student, okay? What do you think of him? Proud, what else? Confident, yes. You see his features, okay, and he's proud, the shields, and by the way, he got 5 out of 5. This exam was, I remember, I think it was flyers, as I remember. As teachers and educators, we observed a lot of change. The first point was related to shy learners. Shy learners. They started talking. They started to take part in classes. They started to ask about the next exam. Teacher, now I did starters. What about the next level? Movers, flyers, and so on. And also, weak students or slow students became motivated. They want, as I said, they want to participate, take part in class. And really, every student tells a story. Every student has his own story. Every student starts from a challenge to change. Good, thank you. Now, I want you to watch some videos, okay, from these students.
Hi, I'm Yusuf. Before using Cambridge books, I wasn't confident in reading or speaking. But now, after 2 years, I can read full texts and talk about different topics in English. The best part is that the activities in class are really fun and helps me practice. I recently passed my Cambridge Flyers exam, and now I'm ready for the next level.
Okay, I need a comment about this student. What else? Do you think he is shy a little bit? Yes? Yes. And by the way, Yusuf last year did movers. This year, inshallah, he will do Q for schools. Another student.
Hi, my name is Abdurrahman. I used to be shy to speak English, but with Cambridge books, we do tasks in class that made me feel more confident. Also, getting certificates from Cambridge made me feel proud and motivated to keep learning.
Okay. What about this guy? Say bravo, yeah, bravo. What else? confident again. Another one.
Hello, I'm Khalid. Thanks to Cambridge English, I've improved my listening and speaking a lot. In class, we use videos and activities from Cambridge books, and they really help me understand how to use English in real life. I passed my A2 key exam this year, and now I'm preparing for P1.
Okay. This gentleman. What else? Thank you. By the way, he's my son. Okay, I like it. Okay. Thank you. This is another student, and he has a big story, this guy.
Hi, I'm Ride. One of the best things about Cambridge is how it helps us improve with each step. I've moved from starters to movers to flyers. And with each level, I can see how much better my English has become. It's like climbing a ladder with clear steps.
Yeah. So, good. What else? Who's at the back? What else?
I think he's got a problem with confidence, but now I can see that he's going.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yes. This happened after doing the exams. Okay. And now he's asking. Oh, by the way, yes, he did keep for schools. The last one. Okay. And he got, I think, 143 out of 150. Yes. Now, teachers take the lead. Yes. Teachers take the lead. Teachers, their minds have changed. Now they are teaching students not for the language itself. They know that the language is not an end in itself. They teach them the language to use it to learn math, to learn, yes, geography and so on. Oh, sorry. You know, sorry. Okay. So teachers take the lead, okay? This is another video from Riyadh, one of the schools of Riyadh. Let's watch it.
Today's exam, like either you're starters or movers or flyers, like you're gonna introduce yourself, okay?
Once you are in the exam, some sort of actions you have to do. You have to relax, don't get frustrated.
My feelings of the exam is I'm a little nervous and I'm a little happy and excited. I am very excited and very happy. I'm feeling happy and excited at the same time about the exam.
ما مثلها مكان للعلم والتقدم ساحاتها احتضان وصرحها تبسم.
The exam was so much fun. I loved it. It was so easy. I was so happy. I loved the exam. I want to do it again. Thank you for my mom and dad who put me in Cambridge. Thank you for teaching me for Cambridge. I have feeling the good thing that I have 10 out of 10. Hi, my name is Muhammad. The exam is really, really easy. A little bit hard in the first one. Is about 100. I really, really, really love the exam. The last thing, we colored, and voila, we're done.
Okay, let's some comments, please. Okay, some comments about this video. Yeah. What else? Yes, perfect. Yeah. Skills. Yeah. Yes. Their body language. Yeah. Good. What else? Yeah. They don't. Yes. They have no fear with the exams. What else? Yes. Yeah. That's perfect. They are having fun while having the exams. Yes. What else? Okay. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. And now it's time to be proud. I remember this school in Khamis Mashit, Zaid and me, we are attending there. Students were very happy. Okay, parents attended the ceremony. Everyone was happy. As this another school also. This in Jeddah. Okay, this video was another school about the ceremony. Let's watch it. Sorry. Okay, some notes please, some comments about this video. Cheerful. Thank you. What else? Pleasure. Amazing. Yes. Their parents, the father is involved. Yes. You see this father is, okay, and this is Dr. Remember he's in King Abdulaziz University. Yes. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Once again. Okay, some statistics. Okay, about the effect of these exams on schools. So, most parents ask about the exams. Most of them ask about the next level. Yeah, and also teachers. Parents have more confidence in these schools. And now, an invitation, a real invitation. I want all of you, okay, as teachers, school leaders, head of departments, to join this journey. Okay, this journey is not related to one school or one person. It's for all of us. So I want all of you to join this journey. So it's an invitation. And by the way, some schools are going to sign today to have the exams. So again, from challenge to what? I need to listen to it again. To what? Thank you. Now, if you have any questions, I'm ready. If you have any questions, I'm ready. I think I have another mic. Yes. Okay. Any questions? Yeah, okay.
What's the first thing a school needs to do if it's interested in becoming a part of this collaboration?
Again, please.
Sorry.
Again.
What's the first thing a school needs to do if it wants to become part of a collaboration with Cambridge?
Okay, just one thing. Just contact us only. We are here. We contact them. Okay.
And the practical steps. What's the process?
The process. Just when they have a desire to do the exams, just to we give teachers training. They have the materials, and just they give us the data of students, names, IDs like this. Then we assign a date for the exam. It's a piece of cake.
Thank you.
Welcome. Pleasure. What else? Yo, mashallah. At the back. Okay. Dr. Ahmed. Okay.
Good morning. I'm just asking about the number of participants in every level of exams. Is there a certain number or it's open?
Yeah, that's a good question, really. Yeah, at least 20 students, at least for each level. 20 students. If you have starters, you can start with a pilot group. You can start with a pilot group, just 20 like this. You can have 24 starters, 24 movers like this. Okay, thank you. What else? Yeah, Zaid? Or, yeah. Yes. Okay, give it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes. Excuse me. Can university students, because I have a son at university, take the chance to be a student in Cambridge?
Yes,
and
I think
take courses there?
Yes.
And how?
Zaid, they are asking about university students. She's asking about university students?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if we have lingual skills, for example, okay, for university students, okay. Okay, any questions? I will quit. Any questions? Sure. Okay. Thank you for joining me. And if you'd like to see some samples of the certificates, I'll leave them. Okay, you can just to see. And by the way, sorry. By the way, each certificate like this, and at the back you have something like analysis of the level of student. Okay, so I'm going to leave them. Okay, on this table. You can check them later. And now, sorry to do so. And now with our boss, Dr. Hisham. You're welcome. The stage is yours. Oh, sorry. Like that.
Peter was commenting in the picture. That's probably 20 years ago. Not that long ago. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. It's really great to be here again. I think I met a lot of people in the room in previous acquaintances, so really good to see you, and really pleased to be in Jeddah again. Today, one of the key things I'll be talking about is really share with you some insights about how we at Cambridge are utilizing AI into designing assessments that are fit for the future from today. We will look at some of the key features of these assessments. We will explore how basically we're doing all of this, and we explore the journey of the key parameters that we are incorporating into our assessments. Talking about technology and AI, probably this weird looking thing is very difficult to navigate my way through it, so I need some help in, is it the green button, isn't it? Yeah, that's it. This video, I mean, I saw it probably last week. Somebody sent it to me from my colleagues in Cambridge, and I really thought it would be a good start for today's conversation. So allow me to share this video, if I can play it.
Hi, my name is Sal Khan. I'm the founder of Khan Academy, and I'm also the author of a new book about artificial intelligence in education called Brave New Words. And OpenAI invited myself and my son Imran here to try out some of their new technology. And so we're curious about how good it might be at tutoring someone in math on Khan Academy. So let's get it started. It's loading up. All right, make sure I can see our screen.
Actually, in this form.
Hello there. I'm here with my son, and I'd love you to tutor him on this math problem, but don't give him the answer. You can ask questions and nudge him in the right direction, but I really want to make sure he understands it himself. And he's here in the room, so you can talk to him directly.
Of course, I'd be happy to help. Let's look at the problem together. Can you first identify which sides of the triangle are the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse relative to angle alpha?
All right, so I'm pretty sure this is the angle alpha right here, right?
Perfect. That's correct. Now, looking at the triangle, which side do you think is the hypotenuse?
Really,
Remember the hypotenuse?
I'm not totally sure. I think it might be this one, but I really am not sure. This side AC.
You're close. Actually, side AC is called the adjacent side to the angle alpha. The hypotenuse is the longest side of a right triangle and is directly opposite the right angle. Can you find which one is the hypotenuse?
Oh, okay, I see. So I think the hypotenuse is this really long side from A to B. Would that be correct?
Exactly. Well done. Now that you've identified the hypotenuse, can you identify which side is the opposite side to angle alpha?
Okay, well, I mean, you told me earlier that this was the adjacent side, and I know that's the hypotenuse, so I'm guessing that this side, BC, is the opposite side.
Great deduction. That's absolutely correct. Now that you've identified all the sides relative to angle alpha, do you remember the formula for finding the sine of an angle in a right triangle?
Yeah, I know that the sine is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse.
Perfect. That's absolutely right. Now, can you apply that formula to find side alpha in the triangle using the lengths of the sides that we've identified?
Okay, so, I mean, you told me that 7, this side BC, is the opposite side. And then you said that the hypotenuse is the longest side, so that would be this side AB, which is 25. So would the answer be 7 over 25?
Excellent work. That's correct. Sine alpha equals 7 over 25. You did a great job identifying the sides and using the sine formula. If you have any more questions,
This is the wrong presentation, the updated one. No, the presentation is the wrong one. Really? The updated one. There's another slide. Sorry. What did you think of that video? What are the key things, the key features that we found in that video? Obviously, a quick refresher of your math skills. Apart from that, very good point. Very good point. But I think that for me, the key thing that basically was visible in this presentation, in this short video, was the ability of the machine to communicate very, very clearly with the learner, to provide instant feedback, to sound very human in the communication process. But most importantly, the key thing for that the process of learning was making it personalized, isn't it? So that means the learner in this short video was able to build their own learning pattern. They were able to develop, address their key challenges, and that's really the ultimate form that we are basing everything we're doing on, which is personalized learning. So the key, I think, takeaway for me, the reason why I thought this video was really, really a good starter for this talk, is because we are trying to build a more personalized learning journey for our learners. But how do we do that? Technology is coming really, really handy with all these different features that are available. But obviously, it's not an easy process to get there. In this presentation today, I will basically walk you through some of the key things that we are working on at Cambridge and how we're utilizing that cycle to build or to reach a process where we have a more personalized learning. No, not this one. No, there's one. This is not the right presentation. There's no. No. The last one, I just saved it on your memory sticks just now.
It's only one. Sure.
It's okay. I'll manage with this one. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you very much. All right. So the key thing that basically I wanted to build in this presentation was to utilize how basically assessment is deployed in the whole process of AI. And obviously, in order to do this, we got certain characteristics from that video. The first one, that this video was able to absorb not only the readiness of the learner, but also the their responses and their ability to respond quickly, to measure certain behavioral aspects of their learning. But there are certain limitations that we need to be wary of. The first one, obviously, is how accurate the responses are. That's obviously one key important element. The second one is the biases in these responses. And I think there's another theme that's coming out of this, is how can we make this technology accessible and open to everybody, so we can basically move away from the what we call digital poverty, if you like, where basically we're creating separations due to the fact that learners are not able to have access to the same resources. So obviously, in this context, there are many advancements taking place. And in the classroom today, in the education world, there are various features and various tools that are in cooperation. This will not work unless really we put into a proper framework of operations. And this framework is really kind of gaining a lot of momentum in different countries around the world. So in this map, probably over the past 2 years, how many countries adopted AI policies in terms of their learning and their assessment. So the whole presentation would basically explore the ethical uses of AI in learning and assessment. Obviously, I enclosed here links to all these policies. Obviously, we'll send the presentations afterward if you're interested to seeing how the whole thing works. Policies will not be created unless there is an interaction of various components in this process. And that includes stakeholders, that includes policymakers, learners, and obviously learners and parents. And we managed to build a cycle of developments to how basically AI is incorporated into our classrooms. We put it in a very basic form of development, where we're basically looking with basic AI tools, advanced integrations, and then create. So obviously these 3 levels represent the journey that we undertake in terms of our journey towards a more effective integration of AI into our learning tools. The most recent documentation around the use of AI presents various levels of risks that basically we need to be very wary of when it comes to the use of these tools. They are usually classified according to the EU ethical use of AI policies into 4 different tiers. The first one starts with minimal risk, and obviously that's looking at some of the basic tools of assessment, limited risk to high risk to unacceptable risk. And obviously, with all these things that are in place, we witnessed a massive change towards how our teaching in the classroom is happening. So that's why we're trying to build a better, robust understanding of what we called AI literacy. And that includes 2 main components: learning with AI and, teaching with AI and teaching about AI. And each one of these 2 components come with their own patterns of development. So when we're talking about AI tools and teaching with AI, we're looking at how we can support the learners, how we can support the practitioners, and how we enhance students' learning, and how basically we can support the school. So these are the 3 main components of what we're using AI for in the development journey. But teaching about AI is something that we are also taking very, very aggressively as well in Cambridge, because creating a better understanding of how AI fits the context is as important as using the context. And that includes, of course, clarity on the principles of the use of AI, and obviously the connections across various disciplines, and then making sure that basically we've got more skills utilized in that process. And in this visual, we kind of summarize the key benefits and the key risks, the potential risks associated with that implementation journey. From the first moment we introduce AI into a teaching practice to the stage where we are creative with it. Obviously, the benefits are most importantly around personalized learning, and that's really the big theme that I want to focus on today, and how it basically leads to better use in the classroom. A big buzzword these days is how basically, where do we draw the line with AI? Where do we basically make it a reasonable use or an ethical use in this context? And obviously, I made a very quick comparison of how the two components fit the use and the concern. So the use, basically, we're starting with the teacher support, the tools that we have to support our teachers. And I'm sure in this afternoon you would get to see some of these tools with my colleague Peter, who will be talking about integrated learning and assessment. And obviously he will make reference to some of these AI tools like the Teachers Hub, if you're familiar with it. And then the personalized pathways. Dr. Bidai in the morning mentioned a few examples in his presentations. And one of those examples is looking at some advanced AI tools that we're incorporating with some of the books, with some of our learning books. You made reference to the bilingual school and the work that they are doing there. And we're doing a pilot with them around personalized learning for reading and listening skills specifically. And this is really a great model to start really what we want to do with, with schools in general around the personalized learning patterns in reading and listening. But obviously there are certain concerns that need to be addressed. Ineffective practices, over-reliance on AI, where do we draw the line? How do we make sure that the students are getting the most of all these different tools that are available to them? And I think that's really an important point that leads to the agency issue. And I think the biggest challenge with agency is creating or developing a sense of ownership. Whose responsibility is it? Is it the teacher's responsibility? Is it the student's responsibility? Is it the parent's responsibility? Are we basically saying that the students on their own, regardless of their age group, should be basically in charge of their learning? Or is it the teachers or the schools or the parents? So these questions are very important to be addressed. And that's why we're trying to put a formal process around how all these different things are put in place. I mentioned at the beginning that basically one of our biggest concerns is to make sure that these resources that are introduced to our schools or basically are in need of the most basic of requirements in order to allow effective integration and easier accessibility, because that is becoming a real challenge to a lot of the schools that we work with. How do we keep up with the infrastructure, with the technological requirements, and obviously the tools and the resources that families need to avail to their kids? In a recent work, obviously, we are basically doing all these different things in the back end, but it's very important to link all these developments with the teachers as well, with the actual classroom. So we did a number of research papers over the past few years. I will share with you one of them. This is really, really interesting. This is one of the most recent researches that basically were carried out last year or the year before. This really addresses three key areas. The first one is the students' concerns and needs. The second one is the teachers' perspectives. And the final one is the parents' outlook. In this research that basically included around 2,000 people in 20 countries, 20 to 25 countries, we got the following results. So from the teacher's perspective, 62%, from the student's perspective, 62% of students worry about data and privacy. 72 seek guidance. Teachers, 60% recognize AI literacy as a crucial skill that needs to be developed. 79 report back lack of clear policies in their institutions. Parents, 67% of AI benefits are equal or overweighing the risks, so they're in favor of it. 53% believe schools are preparing students for AI future. The research continues as well to address the readiness gap for the implementation of these tools. In this presentation, in this survey, only 20% of teachers felt ready to cope with the new technologies or with the new features. It was also very visible in this research, although it was taken in a number of countries, not globally representative. There were disparities as well in terms of lower income schools and higher income schools. But what I found particularly interesting, the fact that primary school teachers in particular felt that they had no access to AI training, kind of big enough to support their successful implementation of AI in their schools. What this survey shows us really is obviously that we still need a lot of work to building the capacity of AI and how basically we're going to use AI more effectively. Now, what we're trying to do at Cambridge is a range of different things. Now, our aim is really to take all these different responses, all these different ideas, and put them into proper use. So, in Cambridge, our key objectives are basically to create a more effective communication mechanism to allow people to communicate freely and students to learn to get their feedback almost instantly. That's the first point. The ultimate idea of the Cambridge approach to assessment or to AI is to enjoy more personalization of learning. And effective personalization really is the bigger theme that not only you'll see it visible today, but throughout all the activities that we have, you can kind of see that term being thrown away very often. And this personalized learning depends on our learners or our importance or the importance that we place on providing students with more autonomy, with more independence, making students feel responsible for their own learning. So one of our key principles is to create or call for more independence of learning. And I think the most important of all of these is to create a new set of tools that are more engaging, that will allow learners to obviously utilize the same language that our students speak these days, using mobile phones, using catchy games or activities or exercises that basically utilize the same kind of patterns of development that students have. So these key principles for the AI implementation were basically put together through a range of different products. And obviously there were ideas in the morning around what is fit for schools and what is fit for higher education. And obviously what we're trying to build is a more comprehensive ecosystem that provides clarity and guidelines and obviously promotes the AI tools that we have and obviously build a more ethical model of learning. And feedback here is fundamental to all this process, providing effective feedback. Now, one of the most important products, research papers that were produced this year is something we called Getting Started with Artificial Intelligence. And this research paper is available now. If you scan the QR code here, you would be able to get the first or one of the first copies of this guide. And it's a really amazing document because it really addresses some of the key challenges that we have, not only in terms of teachers' readiness, but how is the most effective way of assessing learners throughout their learning journey, obviously of development. This addresses the wider spectrum of Cambridge approach to learning, educational learning. So it's not just basically unique to a specific product, but it addresses the bigger challenge of the use of AI in the classroom. This is not the only publication that we published this year. We've got another one called Preparing Learners to Thrive in a Changing World. This is also a unique publication, and this is also released a few months ago, so it's still hot off the press. this addresses, this focuses more mainly on the student's progress, on the student's interaction. And obviously the key objective of this document is to address the engagement challenges and learners' autonomy. And I think taking this perspective and taking a step back from what is the product to think about how the product is designed is a really important part of the whole process of learning. And this really feeds into the concept that Peter would be talking about this afternoon in a bit of details, which is really the model that we are trying to weave into the learning journey of our students, of our learners. Starts with what we call today the integrated learning and assessment. The fact that we feel that obviously assessment is part of learning, is not an isolated, separate part of learning. And for that matter, we addressed basically a range of issues in the previous presentations of my colleagues. How basically learners develop their skills in a scaffolding way. Learning doesn't really happen all at once, and that's why we need to have the tools and we need to have the evidences to show the progress that our learners are demonstrating at each step of the way. And obviously, this starts with the lower levels, and it goes all the way up. Now, for each step, obviously in today's presentations, all the presentations, and in my colleague Sabina's presentation afterwards, you would see a focus on the digital young learners components. But that is not the only a product that's been dependent or basically that utilized AI in its development. We are aiming to integrate or get ready for the future in terms of designing a complete set of digital exams that responds or that basically incorporate these new patterns of learning from early years all the way to adulthood and obviously higher education. There are various exams that are introduced. Obviously, in other acquaintances, maybe we can have more time to talk about the higher level exams or the exams that are targeting university students. But obviously, all of them utilize a similar principle. And this principle is mainly to not only see products or not only to see assessment tools isolated from their context, but to see a more comprehensive model of learning built into what we call today a plurilingualism, which is a model by which we understand that English sits right next to any other language that basically in existence in a specific market. So for example, we're not seeing here where we're not trying to promote English on the expense of Arabic or on the expense of French. We're trying to create a pattern by which students learn that English is important, their mother tongue is important, and how can we develop in both in the same way? How can we make sure that our learners are ready to tackle the challenge of the world that we are living in at the moment from a more comprehensive point of view? How can we address the requirements of the workplace today that our learners need to be prepared right from the moment they start their primary school all the way they are ready to graduate and take on the world? And for that matter, we understand we want to embed more skills along the language learning journey. And these include the lifelong learning patterns and transferable skills. We do have lots of resources around how these, these skills can be integrated into teaching in the classroom. But the point I'm trying to make here is obviously that the perfect shape of a future assessment should really depend on, or should not just depend on AI, as basically the presentation would imply, or a lot of other documents would just insinuate. That's not really the essence of what we're trying to build. A future assessment that basically we are utilizing today ultimately integrates all these different skills together and addresses these challenges from today and integrated with the learning. And that's why in Peter's presentation this afternoon, you would see how we are aiming to connect the two components together or in other words, use learning or use assessment as a learning tool. And obviously, for using learning as an assessment, it obviously makes it very necessary to understand how teachers in the classroom are changing their role, how teachers in the classroom are changing their behavior in response to these requirements. And I think it's very important to adopt these changes early on, because technically it's not a luxury anymore, it's a must. It's very important we take into account all these various issues that we're talking about now. These are not futuristic themes. These are themes that we're dealing with today in order to avoid kind of the, creating bigger gaps between our learners and the real world. We're looking for assessments that are more flexible, assessments that are more on demand, and we're looking at a more hybrid model of learning, where we have learning in the classroom happening at one stage, formal learning happening, and we have informal learning happening out of the classroom. This connectivity between what's happening in the classroom and what's happening outside the classroom, I'm sure a lot of you in the room would agree that this is really important to make our learners more exposed to language as, for as many hours as possible. And the traditional sense of using assessment for learning for the sake of promoting or reinforcing learning is still very important, but it's changing its shape. So I'm not just giving students the opportunity to learn or to assess what they learned now, but I'm assessing as well what they accumulated over a period of time, over, say, the beginning of the course or the beginning of the year. And obviously, we're still using some of the concepts that basically we talked about properly 10 years ago, and it's really amazing how fast time flies, and we're still basically utilizing. So these ideas of the flipped classroom were introduced now, when you think about it properly 20 or 15 years ago, are still really effective today. And obviously, you would see, hopefully, at the end of the day today, with all the presentations done, that a lot of the themes that we were talking about 10 years ago are still in use today. The promotion of using assessment as a student autonomy tool, or promoting learning by discovery, is still really the very heart of what you're trying to build. Now, obviously, in today's world, we are trying to create, from our perspective, a more robust model of learning that depends on digital technology and that connects, or the response to the actual demands of today's world in terms of quicker results turnaround and, utilizing AI in marking, for example, to provide instant feedback, but also to depend more effectively on the use of other mediums of communication, like mobile phones, for example, or laptops or tablets and things like that. We have, particularly when it comes to younger learners, a bigger emphasis on gamification and learning by doing, all these different themes integrated using a very simple block on a mobile app. So that means the bigger themes that we're trying to build in today's model to get ready for the future is around adaptive, diagnostic, and formative assessment through an integrated model that, as we said at the beginning, will be explored in more details in the afternoon. In this model, the student is the center. But the student is not alone. The student is supported with technology in order to create a comprehensive ecosystem. And this ecosystem integrates various players and various, kind of the integration of various components to that cycle. We need a more future-ready curriculum, if you like. And obviously, in English language, we're lucky because we depend ultimately on the work that's being done on the Common European Framework and the creation of curricula that are basically based on the CFR. to supporting learners, the teachers, and producing assessments of all types to achieve goals that are set forth. Another theme that's really important in the context of future assessments is the well-being of the learner. And this is something that basically we started exploring, and we at Cambridge took the lead on this a few years ago when we introduced our well-being assessment for learners. How, Dr. Bideh mentioned in the morning, or asked a number of questions that were really, really interesting. How do you feel that the students reacted to assessments? And that behavioral aspect of learning is a very important element that we want to monitor. How, obviously, students respond to the pressure of exams, how that impacts their students' engagement, especially when they are studying, obviously, out of the classroom. All these different components are very important to be addressed. So the ecosystem that we're trying to create is a very complicated ecosystem that addresses various components and various models, but we still have the student at the heart to provide a more effective and more independent learner with kind of a better experience, a better personalized experience. I think the Russian dolls is a good example of how the variations of the size of all these different components are being thrown at. All of them are required, and obviously in the two documents I shared at the beginning, it sets forth the direction of play that Cambridge is leading on in terms of these ethical practices and future developments of our products moving forward. Zaid talked in the morning about one particular suite of programs or assessment tools that are ready for launch, and obviously these products will be explored by Sabina in the next presentation after the break. But obviously they all fit in within the same model that Zaid highlighted right at the beginning. We want these assessment tools with all these different features integrated to provide us with more positive impact. And the impact here is impact by design. So obviously we think of the impact when we design the assessment right at the beginning. We don't measure it in isolation. So the digital young learners exams that hopefully you'll be using very soon would ultimately, obviously when we designed them, we thought of the impact that they would have on the learner, and we have a lot of work going on to show that impact afterwards as well, to show the evidence of the suitability of that impact to the context. We do have what we call impact research, which is really providing that statistical evidence to the work that we're doing. We currently published 2 papers on digital young learners and the learning materials that come with them. And I think one of the next steps is to do something in this domain here in KSA as well around the research on measuring the impact of digital young learners. That I think, and this is the sliding, the scaffolding model that Zaid highlighted in his presentation earlier on. And obviously, like I said at the beginning, although we're focusing today on digital young learners, we do have assessment tools that are designed for each stage of that development journey. And I think the ultimate component, the ultimate message here is obviously the assessments are designed for a specific purpose. And we need to understand that purpose of these assessments and obviously how we can utilize them in the classes. And I think that really brings me to the end of what I wanted to share with you today. There would be a quick, I'm not sure if I have no, it's on the survey slide. That's probably on the updated version of the presentation. But there would be obviously more opportunities for us to interact throughout the day. And I really hope that basically you at least got an idea of how Cambridge works or tries to encapsulate all these different ideas around AI and what is the future of assessment going to look like. In the following presentations, you would see two key themes build on these, based on these two principles of the integration of transferable skills and AI, more visible in the Digital Young Learners presentation with Sabina and with the integrated learning and assessment approach that we at Cambridge hold very closely to our operations. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you very much, Hisham. Just before we break, are there any questions? Okay, so no questions, probably thinking about coffee. So the good news is we have an extra 15 minutes. We won't take it away from you. Please enjoy a coffee break, and we are here for any discussions or questions you have. And then we'll come back at 11:30 for Dr. Sabina's session. Thank you.
Hear me okay? I'll wait another minute maybe for everyone to set. So first, to talk about my experience with Cambridge. I'm an EFL teacher. I have been teaching English as a foreign language for the last language school in Spain, in a town called Alcalá la Real. So today we are talking about journeys. I think all my colleagues mentioned the Cambridge journey. So I want to start by telling you about my EFL journey. So perhaps you understand who I am and where I'm coming from. Okay, so I'm originally Polish. And believe it or not, it's a fun fact, I actually got my B2 first when I was 14 years old from Cambridge. So that's how old Cambridge exams are, yeah? But anyway, in early 2000, I lived in Sweden and I worked in high school with Swedish students. And in 2005, me and my husband moved to Al Ain in the United Arab Emirates. I worked in Emirates for 9 years, and I also worked in Abu Dhabi at KAS-Studios, and that's where I established my relationship with Cambridge. I'm one of the authors for Unlock series, which is very popular here at King Abdulaziz University and Princess Noura University. So I think some of you might even have studied from my books. That's how well established they are here, because we wrote them in 2012, the original series. And in 2014, I decided to move to Andalusia, which is in southern Spain. Andalusia has very long, old Arabic roots. The original name is Al-Andalus. And I work and teach and run my language school in this small town, Alcalá la Real. As you can see, the word Alcalá comes from Arabic too. So it's a medieval city. So I want to show you now my journey. I will share with you first my journey as a manager of a preparation center, of a Cambridge preparation center, and my students' journey. But we're going to follow my students from now backwards, okay? So this is one group of my students. You see, I think Badir said how happy and confident they are here with their B1 preliminary certificates that they received last year. You will see the journey because this is me. And when I first started teaching the students, they were up to here. Now some of them are much taller than I am. So I have been with these students since they were little, since they were in grade 1. Started. So first of all, I'm a language teacher. Second, I write textbooks for Cambridge, but also for other publishers occasionally, but mostly for Cambridge. And in 2018, I had this idea to develop myself. You know, in life, as a professional, you want to challenge yourself. You want to do new things. Not all the time, but once in a while. And so I had this idea of starting a language school. I didn't know how to do it. Even though I did study management at a doctorate level at Exeter University, but practical things are always different than real life. So I got a job in a local language school as a teacher, thinking I had a cunning plan. I was going to watch my boss for a couple of years, see how things side of town. My boss asked me, told me that she got another job at a government school with a much better salary. Do I want to take over the school? Okay, I thought about it for 5 minutes. I discussed it with my husband for 2. I said, okay, I'll do it. Yes, so sometimes we take a challenge. I didn't know anything about how to run a language center at all. Well, I knew a little bit, you know. I have been an English teacher and I have been watching my bosses, right? So I spoke to the lady who was the original founder of my school. The school is over 30 years old. It has been in the same place, mostly with the same manager. Before, in the 80s and 90s, it ran as a French school, because French used to be lingua franca in southern Spain. Now, for the last 20 years or 15 years, English has become the language that everyone needs to have in order to succeed at university and with their careers. So the first thing she told me is make sure you have association with a reputable and easily recognizable center. So this was no-brainer for me. You know, having the being linked with Cambridge for many years, I immediately looked for Cambridge accreditation for my school. And that was extremely easy to achieve, you know, and I will talk about it a little bit more. So association with an internationally accredited organization is extremely important to a private school, but also for a government school. Nowadays, parents can pick and choose which school they send their child to. If you have Cambridge logo on the door of your school, you don't need much more advertisement. Apart, of course, having great teachers, yes, and a good relationship with your parents. Now, another thing I will talk about quickly is how my association as a Cambridge Preparation Center has helped my teachers grow professionally. And we're going to talk about how essential for any school it is to focus on young learners. Not only in terms of financial success of your school, because obviously when you have a child enroll in your school from a kindergarten to finish of high school, you're going to receive a lot of tuition, yes? But also in terms of being able to guarantee their academic success. And I will elaborate on this in a second, okay? And finally, I will share with you some of the problems I came across when I talked to parents about the Cambridge exams and some of the misconceptions and rumors that parents sometimes share, okay? Now, to become a Cambridge Preparation Center, at least in Andalusia, in Spain, is extremely easy. All you have to do, we have a lot of exam centers. The one that we are connected with is called Exams Andalusia. But Andalusia is a huge region. Even within the region, we have Exams Granada, Exams Jaén, Exams Sevilla. Yes, so there is a lot of exam centers to choose from, and you can establish good relationship with the managers from that center. It was so easy. You know, sometimes people ask me, "Oh my God, Lina, you just opened the school and you already have Cambridge logo on your door?" I said, "Yeah, it was very easy. Just send them an email." Within 3 days, you receive your accreditation, because all you have to guarantee and promise is that you're going to present students for Cambridge exams. Doesn't matter which level. If they're going to be young learners, high school, or adult exams. Because the Cambridge qualifications, as we will show, start from kindergarten to adult. Yes? And so this is immediate benefit. And really there is no work for you as a manager. Another thing is, because my school is not extremely big, you know, I only have like 120 students. I enjoy it because I live in a small town. We have a very like tightly knit community. I know my students' parents and their cousins and everyone, you know. But because it's a small school, I have to do everything myself. The HR, the marketing, some of the accounting, yes. I don't have a lot of time to do professional development for my teachers. When you become an exam preparation center, this work is taken away from you. Cambridge does it for you. Yes, and I will show you some examples of the newsletters that my teachers receive, the free courses, webinars that they are invited locally all the time. And also some opportunities for my teachers to become Cambridge examiners. So this is extremely important, because to have a successful school, you need to have exactly, and happy teachers, yes. And happy teachers are teachers who feel they are being challenged, their opportunities to be creative, yes. A good school has high retention of teachers. You don't want to lose teachers, because each teacher you lose the experience and the connections, the experience they have with the syllabus, and the connections they have made with the children and parents. Keep your teachers, yes? And for me, Cambridge has really helped me with that part of my job. Of course, I also provide workshops for my teachers and things like that, but the bulk and the direction is taken from me. So for example, here is an example of a newsletter that we received this month. This is just now from last month, from October. So your teachers sign up for the Cambridge Preparation Center newsletter. It goes to their email, and they can browse through our local events, for example, that are coming in this trimester. They can see the courses. The courses are for free as part of the being a member of the Cambridge network. You will receive news. For example, in the October issue, we had more news about the digital young learners and the new feature in which children can create their own avatars. And opportunities for webinars. The webinars are great because they normally recorded, so even if your teachers can't take part in the specific webinars, they can watch them later in their free time. So this is how you can help your teachers grow in a professional way. And what's also great when someone else takes over from you the professional development is that your teachers can pick and choose webinars and courses that they think they need. Now, why? Why do we do Cambridge exams? In Spain, all the students, if they want to enter university, need to have a B1 qualification, an internationally recognized B1 qualification. So it can be IELTS, but IELTS is not popular at all in Spain. It can be an APTIS. It can be I forgot the third one. Doesn't matter. It is Cambridge, but I forgot. It's for what I want to say. Also, if you want to become work for the Spanish government, like to be a civil servant or work for civil services, you have to have this minimum qualification. Okay, so it's essential for anyone's future career. Now, the problem is, in order to, if you want your child, your teenager, to succeed, you have to be 16 years old before you can take an IELTS or APTIS exam. But what happens if people are younger, yes? So my thinking, when I started my school, was we want to ensure that young people have the Cambridge qualifications before they are 16. Because if I don't know, how many of you have teenagers at home? How many of you have? No one has children here? Okay. So if you have children and then you think about their future, and if you have teenagers at home, you know when they are 16, 17, 18-year-old, they're overwhelmed with the schoolwork because they are preparing for university. If they're hard workers, they already have a lot on their plate because they have to perform well in mathematics, in biology, in history, philosophy, other subjects, which also will count to their university entrance qualifications, yes? So why wait with this extremely important high-stakes exam in English when your students, when your children are 17 or 18-year-old? Let's do it early, yes? So for my students, this is an example of an exam in my school, yes? A typical path is, I can guarantee my students to get their B1 preliminary, which is band 4-5, more or less, which is a minimum they need to enter, which is all they need to enter university, any program at university, at any place in Spain, or in fact in Europe, at the age of 13. And this has been a unique selling point for my school. You know, you can spend money on social media, marketing, and things like that. If you have a picture of a 12-year-old, because we have success stories of children who finish 6th primary, is about 12-year-old. You know, that's in Spain last year of primary. If you have a 12-year-old with a B1 certificate in hand outside your school and you put it on your social media, parents will talk, yes, the word spreads. Then if you have a whole bunch of 13-year-olds with this qualification that many adults cannot achieve, because they started too late. That's the best selling point for your school, yes? And the word of mouth will spread, especially in communities like here where people are really rely on family and spend a lot of time with family, like in Saudi, like in Spain. We have big families, we spend a lot of time with our cousins and so on. Word of mouth. The next step is by the age of 15, when they finish the high school, we can guarantee our students to get band 6 and 7, B2 first in English. For me, it's not only about the exams. Students who achieve B2 first at this age, I can guarantee you, when you speak to them, you will think they studied in the UK or America. They almost like native speakers. They read fluently, they have real language skills that will serve them well for their whole life. Even if they don't go to university, not everyone has to go to university, but if they want to have a successful business in Europe, they want to collaborate with people from around the world, this qualification will set them for their life. And that makes me very proud, because I am a teacher at heart, and I want my students to have successful lives, yes? I don't want to teach for the exams. And we don't have many students who can achieve the C1 level, because the C1 advanced is extremely difficult exam, yes? But there are some hardworking students who love language, who love reading. Those students by the age of 17 can get the C1 advanced. And that's a very high qualification that can guarantee you placement in any university in the United Kingdom or United States directly without any prep program, yes? Now, why we do Cambridge exams? Because the B1 preliminary and B2 first have a version for schools, which means the exams are adapted in terms of the topic and content and tasks to teenagers. So they are achievable. C1 is different. That's why this one requires more work. It's the same exam for adults and teenagers, unfortunately. Yes. So this is a great point. Now, some parents ask me, oh, why are you presenting our students for B1 and B2 for schools? I said, it doesn't matter. The title is the same. The certificate is the same. What's more, the certificates are valid for lifetime, okay? So, one of the misconceptions my parents had is like, oh, why should we present my teenager, my 12, 13, 14-year-old for the Cambridge exams, if it will expire by the time they go to university. These qualifications do not expire, okay? So that's very important. It's very important for you to listen to your parents so you can hear any rumor or misunderstandings about the exam and clarify them directly. Another reason why I want my students to take these qualifications. In Europe, we have Erasmus program, in which students, for example, even from small town like mine, travel to Germany, Czech Republic, France, or on exchange programs. But this placement in those programs is highly competitive. Not anyone can go. So if your student already has a B1 or B2 in English qualifications, it will give them direct advantage when they apply for scholarships, exchange programs, and so on, okay? It's an amazing qualification. But, so this is a success story. So I told you we're going to go from the success backwards, yes? This journey starts here, okay? I cannot guarantee, you know, sometimes Spain has very low level of English in high school, in schools, yes? There are maybe 27 students in the classroom. Sometimes for 50 minutes, all students here is Spanish in an English lesson. Okay, it's just exams, copying things from the whiteboard. Many students don't have opportunity to speak or do projects or do anything creative or meaningful with the English language. That's where schools like mine come. We work with children after school from 3 o'clock until 9. You know, it's Spain. We eat at 10. So, and I always tell parents, you know, sometimes parents come to me with a 14-year-old. In September, drag it by the ear to a language school. Oh, my son needs his English qualification. What can you do? I do an interview. A child can barely speak any English. A 14-year-old who has asked him what marks has he got in English at school. Oh, very good, you know, 8, 9. Okay, but I say, oh, look, he's 14. The only place I can put him is with the 5th primary. That's his level of English. And even there, he will struggle because this is grade 1. Those kids have been studying with me for 5 years. We do games and songs and activities. They have confidence in English, yes? A 14-year-old who hasn't really have good exposure to English, there's nothing you can do, really. It's very sad, yes? You know, it's very sad when parents just leave English behind like this. And that's why for my marketing, like social media and things like that, and mostly when I speak to parents, educate your parents, you know. We've just started the academic year in September when parents bring new children, or even my old children, I show them the back of the book. Look, this is where we are at, for example, movers. This is where we're going, yes? In first high school, we plan to take B1 exam. At the end of high school, we'll take. The parents have to understand this journey, yes? That the journey we've been talking about is not just for marketing for Cambridge, it is a journey for the children. But it's increasingly important for the head teachers and headmasters to make sure this journey is clear to the parents, so they know where their children are going. Some parents have misconceptions. This is some things I've heard from parents in the last few years, you know. Why waste money on English courses so early? I will just bring my child, like that mother, you know, when he's in high school and get his English qualification. No, I cannot help you. I'm sorry. I cannot. The critical period, you know, if you're familiar with it, of learning foreign, it has passed. The child hasn't had this exposed. If any of you have ever worked with adults who want to learn another language, it's mission impossible. Really, unless they already know many other languages and they have developed, you know, ability to learn a language, it's very hard to teach adults, or in this case, teenagers. Some parents say, oh, look, but this school, the children are just playing and drawing. This is not learning. because they think learning is when the child comes home with a notebook of like 30 vocabulary items copied from the whiteboard. This is old traditional understanding. That's why it's very important to social media and face-to-face conversation with your parents to talk to them. You know, if you have opportunity to talk to your parents as a teacher or a headmaster, when the parents come collect kids from the school, don't hide in your office, go out, talk to the parents. Tell them what you're doing and why, so they understand. Because your parents are not EFL professionals. They have to understand that we are not just drawing and circling things just for fun. So I think this has been presented to you, you know. This is our journey. We start with the starters, movers, flyers, and this normally, A2 is the end of primary, which in Spain is 6th grade, or first high school, where we are at the key 4 schools, and then 2 years of high school, we want to achieve B1 level, the last 2 years of high school B2, and we have like a college, it's called Bachillerato, the last 2 years before university. That's where your high achievers can go. C2 exam is completely different thing, in my opinion, because when you can achieve such a high level of English, you really can direct your own learning many times. You are already immersed in English, yes? And you just need exam practice. So this is maybe my key observation. Invest as a teacher, as a manager, as a headmaster. Invest in young learners because they are the bloodline for your school and they are future of your education. Invest in terms of your time. Invest in terms of hiring teachers who love working with children, teachers who are good with arts and crafts, are creative, love songs, love rhymes and things like that, can create. I have teachers who make up their own games for the children because they love working with children. We talked a lot about digital young learners exam. I really loved, there was, if you remember from Badir's session, there was a little girl, and she says, this was not like an exam. We were just coloring. Yes? Children really think this is not digital young learners, the first 3 exams, starters, movers, flyers. It's not really an exam. Children will think they are like playing a game. And it has been designed like this because young learner education, it is playing games, isn't it? It is coloring and circling and matching things and solving riddle problems. We have made it with digital young learners super fun because I think if you've been at here at the beginning, the little video we saw, the children are immersed in the underwater world, in a dinosaur world, and they get to explore things and collect points. And from my experience, children love nothing more than to collect points. Yes, doesn't matter for what reason, okay? So this is the future of your school. Children, yes, small children to start. So just to recap, bringing Cambridge Preparation Center, being a Cambridge Preparation Center offers your school immediate recognition. So that's half of your marketing done for you. We were talking, Cambridge has been established 500 years ago. It's a brand that everyone recognizes all over the world, yes? And it costs you nothing to become a preparation center. Opportunities for your teachers to grow and set your students on a track for academic and professional success by the time they finish high school. And more importantly, parents can see tangible milestones in terms of different qualifications. And children also have a sense of pride, you know. I have some teenagers who were not excellent students, but we work with them very hard and we give them a lot of motivation to achieve their B1 preliminary certificate. And suddenly, once they have this B1 certificate, they think, oh, I want to study more. I want another certificate. Because they get sense of achievement and self-worth and that it can be done, yes? So that's my story and my students' story. I hope you enjoyed it. And I can answer any questions now. If there are no questions, okay. Oh, yes, please. Oh,
Excuse me. Questions on what? About the things you said, or about AI? I mean.
About?
Is it about AI learning, or about your
about
career?
my presentation.
Your career.
But you can ask about AI learning too. Dr. Hisham is here.
The most important point I want to say about AI when coming to this meeting is that we must be learning, because they just take from it, they just copy it. Students do that with AI learning. They're happy with it. This is what I think.
Yeah.
Because we were created by Allah, not like AI. This is what
Absolutely.
I think.
Absolutely. I think this is a very important point, and we always say that the role of the teacher is changing, but it's not going away. The role of the teacher has changed really remarkably for the past 10 years, from being the center of the classroom, and maybe Peter in his session would talk more about the work that the teacher does in the class in this new model. But we're playing now a much more dynamic role in that, in facilitating their journey. But what we are calling for is more learner independence, learner autonomy, so to encourage learners to find out, on their own, to find knowledge on their own, to discover learning. Just giving more autonomy to the learners.
Yeah, thank you.
But definitely not taking away
But
the traditional
really,
role of the
in
teacher.
real life, they are just copying from AI, just using it to solve the problems without learning. Some students do that. I can see that in my in one of my kids. Yeah, they're just copying.
Oh, absolutely.
And taking ready answers. And this is not right.
One of the key risks that we see in AI is basically the misuse of AI for the purpose of learning. And that's really what we're trying to minimize. What we're trying to do really with AI literacy, to train teachers on how to use AI in the class, and also train parents on how to control the use of AI out of the classroom. So I think I mentioned that in my presentation earlier. It's an ecosystem that we all need to really develop. Parents, teachers, schools, and learners as well, in order to make the most of it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, yes? Oh.
Thank you, Sabina. It was a wonderful presentation. I could just feel your passion and your hard work during, how proudly you were presenting your students and everything. It was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I must say that. Having said that, I just want to know, during your presentation, you said that your students in Spain, if they achieve B1 or B2, they can directly go to the university. The question is not to you, but it brings to me a question. How does this apply here in KSA? Because if we have this kind of certificate, I don't think we can apply that to, we can use that to getting into the university. So I don't know who can answer this question, but how would this help my KSA students if they achieve the B1 or B2 proficiency in English, that they will be able to go to apply to the universities here in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia? Because I think they strictly would like to see the results from the school, from the high school, to go there. Or else, if you are going for higher education, they would ask for a STEP or IELTS, and that's it. They wouldn't be looking for the Cambridge certificate. So I want to see how the Cambridge kind of cooperate and help us out to make sure that this is the case here, because it's not at the moment, if I'm not wrong.
I understand. And like I answered the first part of the question is, I can just say from my perspective, if you're just not focused on the assessment, as a parent, you will know that when your child has this qualification, for example, the B2 first, at the age of 15, they can take any exam later on without a blink, yes? So that, yes. But in terms of university, Zaid, would you like to answer?
Yeah, thank you, Sabina. So you're absolutely right. Some exams are recognized by some institutions and not others. What we're looking at here is the journey. So it's not just the end goal. So if you have a learner who started with pre-A1, A1, etc., and they reach the B2 level of English, we're not now saying they have to take the B2 exam. They could take the STEP exam. They could take the
Yes.
IELTS exam
Okay.
to get them into their institution.
So in
But
other words, you are saying that if they are capable of taking the B2 exam, they're ready to take the STEP exams, or
Absolutely.
maybe perhaps the IELTS,
Absolutely.
as Sabina has said in her presentation as well.
Absolutely. And how do we get them to B2? It's through this journey.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And also, if it brings me to my another question, if time allows, is also within the school, when we are taking my students, if they are taking the Cambridge exam, which is fine, how would it doesn't help me in getting the results, because we still have to do the state exams or get their marks to pass the year. They still have to do that. So in that case, I'm being very, very, how should I say, optimistic, and saying that in that case, my student will be taking the Cambridge exam plus the state exam or the curriculum exam that they have to take here in Saudi Arabia. So this kind of makes it a little bit of burden. So they still will have that fear of exam, because the other exams are different. So I would wish that there would be something could be done to kind of collaborate both, and we just can help out, like maybe make a collaboration or something that, okay, those students who have taken the Cambridge exams can maybe surpass the ones that they are taking from the States, to make it easier for the students. We don't want to burden them with the both of them. If you got my point, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I did. So first of all, we are in discussions with the ministry about what we can do in the future. That's not something that happens overnight.
Of course, of course.
The second thing is the fear of exams. So one thing that we work on quite extensively, and that our students have shown us, is that our Cambridge exams are not scary. Right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we've designed them in a way that they're a fun experience for our learners, and so they don't feel bad about taking an extra Cambridge exam. But I think I'm probably not the right person to talk about this in more detail. I think today we'll be hearing from some parents, and they can tell you how they feel about their children taking
But these
both
kind
exams.
of questions, they come to my mind
Yeah.
when I think it is. If I'm going back to my school and I'll tell them that, okay, we want to adopt this, then there will be quite a few questions. That's why I asked you if there is
Absolutely.
something coming in the future for that, so we can kind of look towards that, inshallah.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
And I'll
Thank
tell you that it's not about too many tools, it's about the right tools.
Okay.
So if you have the right Cambridge exams,
Yes.
even if you have to take a state school exam, it's usually accepted and appreciated.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Who wants to go to Sabina's school? If I had kids, I'd take them to Sabina's school. They're a bit too old now. Okay, we're going to try and put more of a practical focus on what we've been talking about this morning. So what I want to do in my 30-minute slot is have a quick introduction to ILA, Integrated Learning and Assessment. And we're going to have a look at what we call the 4 pillars, the 4 pillars which underpin this approach to learning and assessment. We'll have a look at some practical tips and some considerations, and obviously there'll be time for questions as well. To begin with, I'm going to show you on the screen 5 statements. And all I want you to do is to decide if you agree or if you disagree with the 5 statements. Now, probably you're thinking, oh, maybe I'll get it wrong. No, you won't, because there's no right or wrong answer. It's just what you feel. All right? So I'll put them up one by one. You can tell your partners if you want, or you can keep it a secret. Doesn't matter. But remember, there's no right or wrong answer. We're doing this so we begin to get a little bit more into deep thinking about integrated learning and assessment. Okay, so agree or disagree? If you like, you could sort of go like this in your seats, yeah, depending on whether you agree or disagree. Here's the first one. Learning objectives should be clear to the teacher, but students don't need to know them. Do you agree or do you disagree? Are you going this way? Or are you going that way? That way? Okay. I'm not telling you if it's right or wrong, because there isn't a right or wrong. Second one. Giving students a mark or a grade is the most effective way to show students their progress. Or that way. In the middle? All right, number 3. Teachers can gather useful assessment information during everyday classroom tasks. Tell me which way to go. This way? Yeah? Okay. And the 4th one. Effective teaching involves a continuous cycle, setting goals, checking learning, giving feedback, and adapting instruction. I'm looking at the gentleman's pen. He's sending me this way. Agree? All right, last one. When students make mistakes, it's better to correct them immediately rather than wait. I can hear both. This way? I can disagree? Anybody agree? Yeah, some of you agree, some of you disagree. Okay, don't worry. Don't worry. I'm going to put 5 descriptions over here. Ooh. And I'd like you to match the descriptions with those 5 statements. So obviously the descriptions are going to be jumbled up. So match the green with the black. Just do them all, and then we'll have do the feedback. Got them? Okay, so learning objectives, what's that one? Can you remember? Shared goals. And we're going to look in detail what we mean about shared goals and why it's important if we want to integrate learning and assessment in the classroom. Giving students a mark or a grade is the most effective way to show their progress. Can you remember? It's actually C, feedback for learning. Remember Dr. Hisham talked earlier about assessment for learning. In other words, using assessment in order to support the learning process, not just to assess learning at the end of a process. Thirdly, teachers can gather useful assessment information during everyday classroom tasks. Yeah, collecting evidence. And again, we'll see what this means in just a minute. Fourthly, effective teaching involves a continuous cycle. Remember? Teacher-friendly. Yeah, and again, we'll see what this means in just a minute. So the last one, number 5, must be a timely, meaningful feedback. Okay, so let's now move all of that into thinking about the concept of integrated learning and assessment using the 4 pillars. So from what we've just done, from the statements and from that little matching idea, we're now going to look at the connection with these 4 pillars. Remember that ILA is an approach, it's not a method. What's the difference between an approach and a method? Anybody know? Anybody want to be brave? A method is one way of doing it. An approach is lots of different ways of doing things. Yeah? And I think most of us in the room, we'd probably agree that nowadays we don't have a method of teaching. We have an approach which involves different methods because all learners are different. Yeah, all students respond in different ways. We need to differentiate and so on and so on and so forth. So it's important that we don't just stick to one particular method but we use a variety of methods, which gives us the approach. Okay, so ILA is an approach, but it's underpinned by 4 essential pillars. The first of which, and we've just been looking at learning objectives, is this. In other words, it's very important that we understand what is going to be learned and the success criteria. How will we know if students have actually achieved it? The learning objectives, as we saw on the previous screen, what was the description? Can you remember about objectives? They need to be beginning with S, SH, clear, and SH, SHA, shared. Shared with whom? The students, yeah? Learning objectives should not be a secret. If you share learning objectives with students, what's the result? They know what they're doing. And if they know what they're doing, they'll probably, well, hopefully, they'll achieve, but they'll be more motivated and they'll be engaged. And if students are motivated, engaged, yes, hopefully they will achieve something. So our first pillar in the ILA approach is learning objectives. The second one is evidence of progress, and this is where we as teachers are using formal and informal ways of exploring how learners are meeting the learning objectives. So all the time that learning is going on in the classroom, teachers are doing this. We're exploring how the learners are actually achieving the objectives. The third one is what we call actionable feedback. In other words, teachers are looking at learners' strengths, but also areas for improvements, and giving students guidance on what they need to do and where they need to actually go next. And we've already mentioned the word differentiation today. Obviously, differentiation comes in here because not everybody is the same. Different students need different feedback. Different students need different types of guidance on what they should be doing next. And then the fourth one is what we call, the fourth pillar is what we call tailored follow-up. And this is, if you like, activities, tasks that we ask the students to do as a result of this. So the follow-up activities should be matched to the needs of particular learners. I've mentioned differentiation 3 times, I think, already. Let's just have a look at a quote from the Queen. Not the Queen, but the Queen of differentiation. Anybody know who the Queen of differentiation is? Canadian lady? Carol? Carol Ann Tomlinson. If you want to know anything about differentiation, search for Carol Ann Tomlinson. But what she says is that formative, ongoing, classroom-based assessment should be a bridge or a causeway between today's lesson and tomorrow. In other words, tomorrow's lesson should not be Unit 6 because today we did Unit 5. And the next day shouldn't be Unit 7 because today we did Unit 6. No. Formative assessment helps us to know that we can't do Unit 6 tomorrow because the students haven't completed Unit 5. Or we need to go over things, we need to refresh things in Unit 5 before we can go on to Unit 6. So formative assessment is about understanding where students are now so that you can make a decision about what to do next and not just mechanically following what's in the course book. So if we look at this in as a cycle, and we've seen all of this in our pillars, we set our goals, students do things, and we check learning. We give students feedback, then we adapt our instruction, we build on things, and then we start the whole process again. So, if you can remember the 4 pillars, you can tell me which one is setting goals. Which of the 4 pillars was setting goals? Can you remember? Learning objectives. Learning objectives was the first one. What was the second one? Yeah, great, brilliant, well done. So setting goals is our learning objectives. Checking learning is evidence of progress. Giving feedback, actionable feedback, brilliant. And so the last one, adapting instruction, is the tailored follow-up. So far, so good? Okay, so why? What's the purpose of assessment in ILA? Why are we actually doing it? Well, I think there are 5 aims of assessment in ILA that we need to be clear about. First one, continuously collect evidence of learning. In other words, don't wait to get your evidence of learning by doing a test or by doing a quiz. Everything that students do in a lesson is evidence of learning. As soon as they walk in the door, you should be collecting evidence. And we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail as we go on. That's the first aim of assessment in ILA. Secondly, ILA aims to inform your teaching, telling you what to do next. Don't do exercise 3 if they've already successfully completed exercise 2, and exercise 3 is pretty much the same as exercise 2. Why do it? What's the point? Don't teach the book, teach the students. Teach the students the skills. Yeah, no, you're right, you just used a different word. So don't mechanically go through a course book just because it's there. There's no point, it's a waste of time. What we should be doing is using what the students are producing to inform your teaching, guiding you on what you should do next. Imagine you have a course book activity and it's an activity based around the present continuous. And you know that your students have got present continuous coming out of their ears. They know it inside out. They have no problems with it. They can use it accurately, appropriately, and fluently. Why would you waste classroom time doing more activities on it? There's no point, is there? Yeah? What you should be doing is moving on and developing their knowledge, developing their skills with something different, something which they're not so confident in using. Thirdly, ILA aims to provide actionable, targeted feedback. In other words, it will help you to understand where you should be going next. And fourthly, and we've heard this a lot, particularly from Sabina, that ILA aims to develop learner independence, learner autonomy, and that will in turn boost their motivation. If activities that students are doing, if the learning that students are doing is targeted at them at their level, then they're much more likely to become autonomous. But if what we're asking them to do is not at their level, whether it's too high or too low, then they're going to be demotivated. And the fifth one, and I hope you like this one, because there's your friend. ILA does not dismiss summative testing. Summative testing is a key part of the whole ILA approach. And that's why we're here this morning to talk about Cambridge qualifications, in particular digital young learners. So using one of the starters, movers or flyers, the digital young learners, is the way that you can combine a summative assessment with your ongoing classroom formative assessment. So let's have a look at the benefits. Because the whole reason we're doing this is because there must be benefits for teachers and also for learners. So remember, we've just talked about the importance of continuously collecting evidence of learning. Remember, this is one of the aims of the assessment in ILA, is to do this, to collect evidence of learning. So for teachers, I think there are two or three benefits for teachers. First of all, if we're doing this, it means that we're getting real-time insights. In other words, we're getting information, data about our students now at this particular point, rather than having to wait for a summative assessment later on. The key here, of course, is all about student understanding. What do the students understand at this point in the lesson? This is very important, isn't it, in the whole process of teaching and learning. It's trying to identify where students are, trying to identify where students are perhaps struggling and where they're strong. But if you're always waiting for a test, it's probably too late, because by then the misconception becomes fossilized and it's more difficult for the students to change. But if you're looking at your students in a real-time context, you can spot these misconceptions early. And of course, if you're doing this, it then means that you can make decisions about what you should be reteaching or doing more work on, rather than just going through the book and on to the next unit. But it's important that we think about the learners as well. Obviously, there need to be benefits for learners in this approach. If students are aware that everything they do is being evaluated by the teacher, then they'll realize that learning is actually going on all of the time, and that they don't learn the night before the test. It's very important students understand what this process is. Also, hopefully, they'll see that just by taking small steps, it's going to lead to a much, much bigger and much more important picture eventually. And because students are being successful, because they're being valued, then of course it's going to build up their confidence as learners. Sorry, this is a repeat slide for some reason. Okay. The second aim that we said of ILA, the assessment in ILA, is that it needs to inform what we do as teachers, and it needs to guide the way that we move forward. So on the left of the screen, in green, we can see the benefits for teachers. It means that you can tailor, you can adapt, you can change things in order to meet different students' needs. Every single person in the room, if you're a teacher or you were a teacher, you've all had experience of mixed ability classes. There's no such thing as a non-mixed ability class. Every single class on planet Earth is mixed ability. As soon as you have two people, you have mixed ability. Yeah, we know that. And therefore it's important that as teachers, we're addressing students not as a homogeneous group, but as a group where people have different needs, different experiences, different skills, and so on. And that means that we can become more responsive to learners' needs. And very importantly, the point I was making earlier about present continuous, it means if you're being informed by what's going on, it means that you can reduce time wasted on material. If I had $1 for every time a teacher has said to me, but we don't have enough time, I seriously would be not a millionaire, but a billionaire. Seriously. Because time is always an issue, isn't it? But I think we can blame time, but perhaps we need to look at ourselves and think about this. Are we, the teachers, the educators, are we actually wasting time by doing things with students which they don't actually need? I think we're all guilty of that, particularly if we have these pacing guides which are restricting flexibility in what teachers can do. So there are definitely benefits for teachers, and of course there are benefits for learners. With differentiation, feedback from the teacher is at the right level. It's at your level. It's at your level, not everybody else in the room's level. And it means that learning becomes more relevant and it becomes more achievable, and progress will be quicker. So the third one, remember, was about feedback, and we need to provide actionable feedback. In other words, we need to give students feedback which they can act on. There's no point in giving students feedback if it's something that they can't do, if it's too difficult or if it's too easy. And sometimes when we're giving group feedback, that's what happens. Some students won't be able to do it because the feedback is not targeted to them. So let's do it the other way around this time. For learners, it means they'll have a better understanding of what they need to do next, very importantly. Secondly, if they can understand what they have to do, then the encouragement increases, and they're going to feel that they're being supported by the teacher rather than self-judged. And the third thing I think here is that we mentioned this earlier about autonomy and independence. Students are going to learn more about how to assess their own work and how they can move forward and how they can set their own goals. And we'll see an example in a minute of how this appears in a course book. So this is for our learners, and for the teachers, it means that you can have more dialogue, more conversation, more discussion with learners about where they are now and where they're going to be moving on to. I think also it can help us to understand what students are actually thinking. If you're targeting your feedback at individuals rather than as a group, you're able to understand what students are thinking and how they got to that point. But if your interaction with students is always as a group, then it's very difficult to know what individual students are actually thinking. And the third point here is what we're doing as teachers is we're reinforcing this idea, this concept of improvement rather than performance. Performance is all about you're here, that's it, end of story. Yeah? But if we look at the other word, improvement, we can always improve, can't we? We can always get better. Even if you think you're the best, you can still improve. We all can. Everybody in the room can. Okay. The fourth aim of assessment is to foster learner autonomy, boosting motivation. So we've got 3 red boxes on the screen. For teachers, we can share the cognitive learning with the student or the students, yeah? We can build a partnership rather than it being a one-way model, and we can cultivate reflective what students? Motivated students. Motivation is the key, because if students are motivated, they're going to learn. They're going to be successful. It's when students are not motivated that we have the problems. And for our students, they can start to develop study skills, metacognitive skills. How do I become a better learner? What do I need to do in order to be successful? So they can develop all of these metacognitive skills. And they can take ownership of their, it's got to be their, I've got progress, but learning is fine. And they learn to self-correct, set their own targets, and reflect on their outcomes. And the fifth aim, allow for a combination of formative and summative checks. So, for teachers, if we're doing both formative on the go, but also summative checks, it means we have a better understanding of student development. But it also means that the summative assessment can be used more strategically. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, what is the point in giving a student a summative assessment if you know they're going to fail? Any point? Waste of time, because it's going to demotivate the student, and the student is going to see themselves as a failure. Yeah? But by doing formative, on-the-go assessment, we have a better understanding of when we should be using a summative assessment. And thirdly, and I think this is the great one, if we're doing this, formative and summative, formative, summative, formative, summative, it means that we can avoid teaching for the test. I can remember saying to teachers over the years, if you teach your students enough English, it doesn't matter what test they're doing. They should be able to pass it, as long as the test is targeted at their particular level. And for our learners, and I think, again, this is a really important point, if students understand that they're being both formatively as well as summatively assessed, they recognize that the exam at the end of the year, the end of the semester or whatever, it's not the only measure of their success. Put your hand up if you think you're not a good test taker. I'm going to put my hand up because I'm not. I'm terrible at tests. The rest of you are all brilliant? Okay, brave man there, thank you very much. Lady there at the front. Okay, some of you are getting a bit braver. There's 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hands are going up. If you know as an individual you're not good at test taking, your life is doomed, isn't it? You're never going to get anywhere. But if you know that your assessment is also going to be formative in the classroom, then you have a chance of showing the teacher that you can actually be successful. And that's what I mean here by being supported through the learning journey. But hopefully, it will also mean that you'll become more confident about taking the test. Okay, so how do we do it? Very importantly is this continuously collecting evidence of learning. How do we do that? Well, we get the students to self-assess. We get the students to self-assess at the start of a lesson. How do we do that? Well, a course, for example, like Power Up KSA edition does exactly that. This is from the teacher's book, and you can see that there are opportunities. SA means self-assessment. Instructions for how you can get the children to start self-assessing. Say, open your pupils' books, page 6. Look at the photo. Where are the children? Where are we? Encourage the learners to repeat, and so on and so forth. So this is a way that you can start introducing self-assessment. And by encouraging the students to demonstrate their current learning to you, you're doing exactly this. You're beginning to collect evidence of learning. But of course, it's important not just to do this at the beginning, you also need to do it at the end. Yeah. So you can also do it through self-assessment at the end of the lesson or the unit. And again, Power Up Saudi edition gives you instructions on how to do this. Say, this is our lesson. We practice school words. Point to the classroom items. Do you know the items? Have students self-assess by giving each other high fives, and so on and so forth. One of the other aims is to foster learning autonomy and boost motivation. And we've already talked a lot today about learning objectives. So we need to show the students the learning objectives at the start of the lesson and revisit them at the end. With digital software nowadays, with Cambridge One, which is our digital platform, you can project the learning outcomes onto the screen. You can put them on the whiteboard, whatever it is that you want to do. But you can show them the learning objectives at the start, and then you can revisit them at the end. And the students' the students' activity book, over on the right, you can see how the students' activity book supports students' self-assessment. My unit goals. My mission, and we're going to look at the mission in a minute, which is the project, and also an opportunity to say what I can and I can't do at the end. So Power Up KSA edition, you can see that courses like this have already integrated learning and assessment into the materials for you to follow. Remember that integrated learning and assessment doesn't see assessment as something unwanted. ILA sees assessment as something which gives you information. It gives you information in terms of diagnosing what's going on in the classroom, but also opportunities for formative and also reflective assessment. Power Up KSA edition is built around what we call missions or projects. And the idea is that students use the language they've learned in order to complete a stage in the project. So they have stage 1, then they go to stage 2, then they go to stage 3, and then finally they do the mission at the end. So at each step of that mission, what can the teacher do? Have you been asleep for the last 30 minutes? What can the teacher do at each step? Formatively assess. Formatively assess. Formatively assess. Brilliant. Well done. Exactly. And that's what ILA is built around. So, I know it's lunchtime. Just give me 5 minutes and I'm finished. So the mission stages, they give teachers opportunities to do exactly what I've just been feeling stupid going up and down the stage doing. But it gives teachers opportunities for formative assessment. And through formative assessment, we can collect data, we can collect evidence of learning from our students. And then, because you're brilliant as teachers, you can readjust what you're doing in order to meet students' needs. If students are at stage 1, but they haven't done it very well, what's the point in going to stage 2? There's no point, because they're just going to collapse. So if you're at stage 1 and they're not doing very well, what do we need to do? We need to readjust our teaching, maybe reteach something, maybe give some more support, more scaffolding, and then they can go on to step 2 and so on. And these are the stages that we see in a typical Power Up KSA edition mission. So in each mission stage, learning is assessed to guarantee success. And if we guarantee success, then we're boosting learner outcomes. So here's stage 1, make labels for your classroom, go to the activity book for help. Stage 2, what's the next stage? Choose a new word to learn, go to the activity book. And then stage 3, make a class poster. So those are the 3 steps. And then finally in the unit, here's the mission. This is what they have to do in the final stage. So there are 3 scaffolded stages and then the final stage. So the last stage of the mission is an indicator of performance. So they've got 3 stages, 1, 2, 3, and then they jump and they do the final mission. If you like, this is the project demonstration of performance. Demonstration of performance for teachers, but also, of course, for learners. And the learners can use the activity book in order to reflect on their progress. And at this point, you, as the teacher, you decide, maybe I need to do a bit more of a review before we go on to the next unit. And Power Up KSA Edition has a review unit. And these are a great way to put ILA into practice. Because if you decide to do the review, you don't have to do all of the activities. You can differentiate. Some will do this and some will do that. And once again, it gives you an opportunity for data collection. We've talked about summative checks as well as formative, but in Power Up, you'll find opportunities to focus on Cambridge Young Learner examinations, starters, movers, and flyers. So these exam activities will give you more evidence of student learning. And at the end of every cycle, and here what we mean is at every end of every unit, you can give the learners a more formal mock test if you'd like to. So A2 key for schools, there's a clear indication of the exam that it's preparing students for, and down here, which part of the exam, and this particular one is preparation for reading and writing, part 1. And in the teacher's book, in the digital book for teachers, there's a test generator so you can create your own tests for your students. So, we're at the end, time for a quote. Carol Reed, who's done an enormous amount of work for Cambridge, particularly on primary courses, she tells us that when assessment is part of everyday learning and not just at the end of the academic year, students stop performing for the test and they start performing for themselves. Very wise words, I think. So, in conclusion, I think the first point to make is that learning becomes visible to teachers and to learners if we adopt an ILA approach. Second point, if students are getting constant feedback, that's going to help them to become more independent, more autonomous learners, and will build them as learners or grow them as learners. And students will begin to understand, very importantly, why they're learning. I think students very often don't understand why they're learning something because they don't know what the objectives are. But if they understand the objectives and they can see the pathway, then they'll understand more about why and not just about what. I didn't make it up. It's all research-based. And we would love to... Hang on a minute, I just need to do this. You don't want this now? No, we'll do it at the end. Okay. I thought this was the end. Oh, okay. I can't do it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Hope it was useful.
Thanks, Peter. And now it's time for some feedback from our great parents. So we'll start with Abu Rayyan. Okay, just to give you some feedback in Arabic, by the way. And after this feedback, don't forget that we have a photo session, okay, with this, okay? Bismillah.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أولا أعرف عن نفسي رأفت جمال عايض، والد لولدين في المرحلة المتوسطة والمرحلة الابتدائية. أصحاب السعادة السادة والمحظور، الخبراء والتربويين، وكل من يحمل التعليم في قلبه وعقله. يشرفني أن أقف بينكم اليوم لا بصفتي خبيرا في التعليم، بل كأب شهد بعينيه كيف يمكن للتعليم أن يحدث فرقا حقيقيا في أبنائه. ما حدث هو تحسن في درجات، ليس تحسن في درجات وإتقان للقواعد، بل تحولا في الشخصية بإبداع، ويستمتعون بتركيز. رأيتهم يتفاعلون مع اللغة وكأنها جزء منهم، لا عيب عليهم. هذا التحول لم يكن وليد الصدفة، بل نتيجة لبيئة تعليمية محفزة ولأساليب تقييم حديثة ولرؤية تربوية تؤمن بأن التقييم ليس نهاية المطاف، بل بداية رحلة التعلم. لقد لمسنا كيف يمكن للتقييم أن يكون أداة للنمو لا للحكم، وسيلة للتحفيز لا للتقليل، جسرا نحو المستقبل لا حاجزا في الحاضر. وعن محاوري التي تتناول الذكاء الاصطناعي والتقييم التكاملي وتجارب المدارس الناجحة، شعرت أنني جزء من هذه الرؤية، لأن ما حدث مع أبنائي هو انعكاس لما تسمعون إليه. تعليم برقي وتقييم ينير، ومستقبل يبنى على أساس من الابتكار والرحمة. وفي ختام كلمتي أنا أود أقول ما رأيته في أبنائي هو صورة مصغرة لرؤية أكبر، رؤية المملكة 2030 التي جعلت التعليم ركيزة أساسية في بناء الإنسان وتعزيز قدراته وتمكينه من المنافسة عالمياً، ورؤية كامبريدج المستقبلية التي تدمج الذكاء الاصطناعي بالتقييم العادل وتمنح المعلم أدوات فعالة والطالب فرصاً حقيقية للنمو. تتقاطع بشكل رائع مع تطلعات وطننا نحو التعليم نوعي شامل وملهم. إننا اليوم لا نحتفل فقط بما تحقق، بل نعلن إيماننا بما هو قادم، جيل يتقن لغته ويجيد لغة العالم ويملك أدوات المستقبل. هذا هو الحلم وهذا هو الواقع الذي نراه بشكل يتشكل أمامنا. شكرا لكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you. جزاك الله خير أبو ريان. تفضل الله. Okay. شكرا. جزاك الله خير.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. مساكم الله بالخير جميعا. يسعدني اليوم أن أقف أمامكم لأتحدث عن تجربة أبنائي. أنا عندي اثنين من الأبناء، أحدهم في المرحلة الابتدائية والآخر في المرحلة المتوسطة. عن تجربتهم مع برنامج كامبريدج للغة الإنجليزية، والتي كانت مثالا حقيقيا عن جودة التدريب والتعليم في مجال اللغة الإنجليزية. منذ التحاق أبنائي بالمعهد منذ عدة سنوات لاحظت فرقا واضحا في مستوى اللغة ومستوى استيعابهم وفهمهم للغة، سواء في مهارات المحادثة أو الكتابة أو الاستماع، وقد انعكس ذلك على ثقتهم بأنفسهم في استخدام اللغة بشكل يومي، وهو ما يؤكد فعالية هذه البرامج التعليمية التي تقدمها هذا المعهد الكبير. إن ما يميز هذا المكان حقا هو الجمع بين الأساليب التعليمية الحديثة والبيئة التفاعلية المحفزة للتعلم، إلى جانب كفاءة المعلمين الذين لم يبخلوا بالوقت أو الجهد في دعم الطلاب وتشجيعهم على التطور. ومن هذا المقام أتوجه بخالص الشكر والتقدير إلى الإدارة على جهودهم في تقديم تعليم نوعي يرقى إلى تطلعات أولياء الأمور، وإلى المعلمين الأفاضل على عطائهم وإخلاصهم في أداء رسالتهم التعليمية. ختاماً، أقول أن مثل هذه البرامج تمثل نموذجاً يحتذى فيه في جودة التدريب وتعليم اللغة، وأسأل الله أن يوفق القائمين عليه لمزيد من التميز والنجاح، وشكرا لكم.
Okay. Thank you for joining us today. Now we have just a little bit of time. We don't want to make you late. So now some schools are going to sign with us for an agreement about exams. So the signing will be at the back. Also, we need from you just to evaluate today's session. And just I need to send a message that it's a journey. Your schools will pay nothing, okay? Exams, students will pay for these exams, and also your schools will be preparation centers. Okay, you will be preparation centers. You have a certificate for Cambridge that you are a preparation center for Cambridge exams. Also, we're going to have some photos, okay? And we are going to have a lunch in 10 minutes, inshallah, after the signing. So I think the first school will be Sada al-Ibda', then Sahel, and then Furqan, inshallah. Hope that you take a moment to scan the code. And also we're going to have a group photo, yeah.
لو ممكن حضراتكم تتجمعوا عند الستيج ناخد جروب فوتو مع بعض يبقى هايل. شكرا.
After 2 minutes. الغداء ان شاء الله هيكون في المطعم في نفس الدور. What do you want to? Come